All right, we're going to do the second half of the lesson, which is factoring trinomials by grouping. So these are our quadratics, mostly. All right, so the first thing that we're going to look for is a common factor that I can pull out. So if I'm looking at this number 1, so I've got a 30, 55, and a 50. Obviously, a 5 comes out of all of those. So I'm left with 6x squared plus 11x minus 10. All right, so now what I'm going to do is I am going to multiply my first term and my last term. And that is what I'm going to use to get, to figure out how to break this out. So 6 times negative 10, so I've got 60. Since it's a negative, this means I'm going to subtract my factors to get to 11. Okay, so I'm looking at factors of 60 that I need when I subtract them is going to get me to 11. So obviously I've got 1 and 60, that's not going to get me anywhere close. 2 and 30, same thing, not going to get me anywhere. So let's skip ahead a little bit. We got 3 and 20, we've got 4 and 15, we've got 5 and 12. All right, well, I don't really need to go any further because I've got 4 and 15, which means I need to get to a positive 11. That should be a positive 11. So I'm going to take a 15 and a minus 4, which means that if I break this down, I'm just going to keep my 5 out front. So I've got a 6x squared. I'm going to rewrite this as plus 15x minus 4x and a minus 10. All right, so now this stuff inside the parentheses is what I'm going to do my grouping by. So I'm going to break them down into groups like that. So I'm going to pull out my common factor, which in this case is a 3x. So I've got a 3x, and I am left with a 2x and a plus 5. All right, the next group, I'm going to pull out a minus 2, and I am left with a 2x and a plus 5. So my factored form of this is actually 5 times 2x plus 5 times 3x minus 2. Now if we went ahead and we could check this by multiplying this out in our boxes and then multiplying that in everything by 5, and we should get back to the original equation. All right, next example we're going to do. So I have 6p squared minus 5p minus 56. Now, I'm looking at this and there is no common factor that is going to pull out of there. So, I'm going to multiply my 6 and my 56, which gives me a 336. All right, so I've got factors of 336 that are going to subtract to give me a minus 5. And the reason we're doing subtraction is I've got a plus here and a minus there. So I'm going to need to subtract again. And we need to get a minus 5. All right, so we're looking for factors of 336. I've obviously got 1 and 336. That's not going to get me anywhere close to 5. All right, a lot of factors in 336. So I'm going to skip ahead a little bit. I'm going to go, let's say 12. All right, and a lot of this is going to be trial and error. Check with your calculator. I don't know offhand that 312 goes into 336, but if I divide, I'm just guessing that it does. So we've got 12 and 28. All right, we're getting closer, but not quite there. We've got 14 and 24. We're getting closer, but not quite there. We've got 16 and 21. Look at that. There's what we got. All right, so this means we're going to have a minus 21 and a plus 16 to get to our negative 5. All right, so when I rewrite this, what I've got is 6p squared minus 21p plus 16p and a minus 56. All right, so we're going to break it down into groups like that. So in the first group, I've got a 3p that comes out, so I'm left with a 2p and a minus 7. On the back half, I've got a plus 8. So I've got a 2p and a minus 7. All right, so that is my factor. All right, the next one. All right, number 3, I don't have any constants that come out of there, but I do have a variable. If I look at this, I can pull an x out. All of those have an x, so now I'm down to a quadratic. 4x squared plus 8x minus 45. All right, so once again, we're going to multiply our 45 and our 4, which is going to give us 180. Again, we're subtracting here. And we need to get to a plus 8. All right, so we could start with 1 and 180. That's obviously not going to be close. 2 and 90. We've got 3 and 60. All right, I'm going to skip ahead, look at some of these that are going to get me a little bit closer. All right, I can see that this is a product of 10. So I've got 10 and 18. That's what I need. So our 8 term is positive. We're going to have 18 and minus 10. So if I rewrite this, we're going to keep that x outside. So we've got 4x squared plus 18x minus 10x and a minus 45. All right, so now again, we're going to do our grouping. So this first term, I could pull out a 2x, and I'm left with a 2x plus 9. On the back half, I'm going to pull out a minus 5, and I'm left with a 2x and a plus 9. So we still have this x out front. We've got our 2x minus 5 and a 2x plus 9. All right, last example we're going to do. All right, so again, I can pull out an x. But nothing else. There's no other common factors that I can pull out of there. All right, so we're going to multiply our 30 and our 9, so we get 270. All right, but this time we need numbers that add to a negative 37. So the signs on 9 and 30 are both positive, which means we're multiplying a negative and a negative to get to our positive. So both of these numbers are going to be negative. All right, so if I'm looking for factors of 270, obviously I've got 1 and 270. I've got 2 and 135, right? This is not getting me real close to 37. So I'm just going to start checking some. This again is a product of 10, so I've got 10 and 27, which added together gives me 37. So I've got what we're looking for. So we've got a negative 10 and a negative 27. All right, so when I rewrite this inside part, so I've got 9x squared minus 10x minus 27x plus 30. All right, so grouping again, this first part, the only part I can take out of there is an x. So I've got 9x minus 10. The second part I can take out a 9. Or 3, I mean, sorry, not 9. So we get a minus 3, and I'm left with a 9x minus 10. We still have this x from down in front here. So we are going to have an x minus 3 and a 9x minus 10. All right, so the thing with this one, does it work if I flip these numbers around? And it actually does. And I will show you, you'll end up with the same answer. So if I rewrite this, that inside term as 9x squared minus 27x minus 10x plus 30. All right, so this time, the first time, so now I have a 9x that pulls out, and I'm left with x minus 3. This back half, I got a minus 10 and an x minus 3. So we still had our x from before, 9x minus 10 and x minus 3, which is the same thing we had over on the other side. So it does not matter which order you put those in, you will end up with the same answer. All right, so that's this factoring trinomials.